Wonderful.
Thanks.
Mic's right here.
Yep.
So
okay. I
as
can
long as
project.
you're good enough, you can project.
Yes, no
Christine
problem.
Daigle from Philosophy is our
can
next speaker. Project away.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a professor of philosophy, so you might think that I'm an interloper in this room. I sort of am. I'm also the director of the Posthumanism Research Institute, and I have a lot of interest in environmental thinking, environmental philosophy mostly. I didn't realize we had to give our pedigree, so I didn't prepare for that. But I can tell you that ecology was my favorite topic in first year of high school in Quebec. Among other things I really liked. Anyways, but I didn't go on and study that. I did mostly political science, history, and then philosophy, and focused on existential philosophy, so all the doom and gloom of we're all gonna die, right? That kind of stuff. Studying nihilism and things like that. So I'm still a joyful person, by the way. So the interest in ecology and the environment was always with me, but not really a focus of study. However, teaching here at Brock, I did design the course Environmental Philosophy. It's a third-year undergraduate course, and I've taught it 3 times. And then became a member of ESRC and started collaborating between the Posthumanism Research Institute and the ESRC. Last year, we had a joint panel on the Anthropocene, where our colleague Martin Head presented, Liette Vasseur also presented. We had also a poet, Adam Dickinson from English, a PhD student studying cinema and representations of the Anthropocene, and a drama professor. So it was an interdisciplinary panel where we talked about the Anthropocene. And of course, as you can well imagine, the Anthropocene was tackled in all kinds of different ways. How to define it, but also what it means for humans to exist in it, right? Like that, those are 2 different perspectives. And what can we learn from each other when we ask ourselves those questions, not in isolation, but together? We had a great deal of fun, Ryan and I, hosting that panel. And so I've been coming back to asking those questions, focusing on the philosophy rather than the actual practice. So for example, in one of my papers, I do talk about marine polyps. But I talk about how they are a great metaphor for the way we exist in the world as interconnected beings. So I don't go in the sea and collect them or observe them or anything like that, but I look at them and ask myself, what can we learn from this way of existing, and what does it tell us about how we exist as interconnected beings, as grounded beings in our environment? That's the extent of my dealing with actual living stuff out there, insofar as, I'm talking about non-human. So I'm looking at questions of how we relate to the environment, how we as humans have thought of ourselves as super exceptional and in charge and able to do whatever we want and use the Earth system for our own benefit, and trying to refocus our attention and reconceptualize ourselves as not exceptional at all, as interconnected, and then asking ourselves, well, what does that mean if we do start thinking about ourselves in this way, rather than as exceptional and remote from, then how will that change our thinking about policy, about issues like sustainability? My favorite question to ask is very simple. Sustainability for whom? For us as humans? Ought we even to survive? Nietzsche has a great phrase. He says, the earth has a skin and that skin has diseases. One of those diseases is the human being. Perhaps when we're thinking about extinction, we ought to even contemplate our own extinction as a good thing for the whole ecological system. And so this is part of my reflections. Posthumanism asks a lot of those questions, seeks certainly to replace the human among other living beings, rather than in a hierarchy and on top of that hierarchy. So those are things I've been working on. I focus on whatever beliefs animate our actions, decision-making, policy-making, beliefs, principles, core ways of conceptualizing ourselves as what lays really at the ground of whatever policy leads to having those bins in the room, right? Like, that may be a good decision. How did we come to that decision? What motivates it? What made anybody think this was going to be a good idea and a needed thing, right? So yeah, if you have an interest in any of these things, I'm your person. So that's it for me.
One or two questions. I think we have 1 or 2 minutes left, so a question or two.
Or not. I'm teaching the environmental philosophy course again next year, by the way. Yes. Okay, thank you.